So, after that roller coaster of a special last time, I'm sure you're all eager to see how Sonic's going to deal with the fact that he's now a prisoner being tried for treason. I know I am, but I do want to point out how annoying it is that such a crucial plot point was relegated to a special that could have easily been missed by kids growing up. I know I did. It left me very confused going straight from 39 to 40 and not knowing what the heck had happened, and I wasn't smart enough to figure out how to get a hold of the special back then. Anyway, the cover this time is a bit more simple than the ones that we've had in recent memory, though that's not necessarily a bad thing, showing Sonic trying to grab hold of Knack the Weasel while on top of his hover bike. Both characters look pretty damn good, but since they take up so much space on the cover, we aren't really given a vivid scene here. It's just two characters standing next to one another, looking towards the readers, however nice they might look. We open on a recap page detailing the events that took place in the last issue and the Mecha Madness special, which is sort of jarring since it uses actual images from the last two issues drawn by Pat Spaziante. Well, we flip over to the first page proper and careen straight into the more cartoonish style of good old Dave Manick. Sonic is in jail now, while Antoine, apparently glad to see him behind bars, is looking forward to being named the new Freedom Fighter commander now that Sonic is out of the picture. Geez, I knew Sonic and Ant didn't like one another that much earlier in the comic, but I was fairly certain he had more respect for Sonic than this. Outside, Amy Rose finally returns to the comic after an extended absence, attempting to protest and get Sonic released from prison. Sally sees this and has a moment of apprehension as Rotor tells her about the reconstruction efforts and how her father apparently thought out plenty of disaster plans in advance, having a ton of emergency supplies and replacement machines hidden away for just such a situation. Sally, however, is dreading the coming court-martial of her almost boyfriend and has a bit of a breakdown because of it. She tries to get a handle on herself by getting a handle on Amy Rose, dragging the girl away after a heated argument with Sonic about how he's not above the law and how he sees the system as flawed. Doesn't really make a lick of difference when we, as the audience, already know Sonic is innocent, but hey, what can you do? Cut over to the next morning in the courtroom where Sonic is facing down the judges, who just happen to be Hip and Hop from the Sonic Spinball adaptation, with Antoine acting as the prosecutor. Hip and Hop explain that, in the case of this case, they aren't there to pronounce the sentence, as banishment is the only punishment for the crime of treason. The one that will be sentencing him in this case is Princess Sally herself, who apparently steeled herself for this, as she is all business. Even Bunny seems more than willing to carry out her duties as Sonic's guard with more than a little troubling zeal. Antoine starts his argument off hard and fast, accusing Sonic of being egomaniacal and a glory hound, calling in several of Sonic's friends as witnesses and pulling the classic cartoonish lawyer trick of asking a question and immediately cutting them off before they could clarify their answer beyond a simple yes or no. Now, as someone who knows next to nothing about the finer practices of law, I couldn't tell you if this was something that actually happens in real life or not, but it just seems incredibly stupid to me. Antoine flops down in his chair, feeling like he's made his point, but then Sonic is given the chance for a rebuttal, apparently able to act as his own defense. And boy does he, pointing out that during the whole time Antoine was busy guarding him and planning his own coronation ceremony, he failed to notice that Knack had escaped from jail, and points out that it was Knack who attacked him. Despite presenting this evidence, Sonic is still found guilty, but Sally agrees to give him 24 hours to find Knack and prove his innocence. And so, armed with a tracking device on his wrist, he sets off to go and find Knack before time is up. We cut over to Robotnik, who picks up Sonic's trail on a remote monitor, but unfortunately there's not much that he can do at the moment, as he and all of his forces are too busy trying to rebuild everything after the big explosion that destroyed Robotropolis in the special. However, he and his lackey Orbinaut, Snively is weirdly absent here for some reason, note that Sonic is heading straight into a very dangerous area, the Robo-Hobo Jungle. And we cut over to Sonic just as he enters the area, musing that this is where all of Robotnik's junked badniks tend to end up. Sonic walks in and is immediately clotheslined by Caterkiller, who he apparently met way back in the limited series run before the full series got started. He's not much of a threat though, as Sonic just breaks his body apart into segments, but he's also then accosted by Batbrain and Motobug. Sonic easily dodges the bug's pincers though, and boots it away before being surrounded by a ton of classic badniks, all eager for a piece of him. We then get a single panel of him completely mopping the floor with all of them before coercing the information he wants out of Caterkiller, who tells him that Knack is hiding out at the bottom of the barrel bar and grill. Sounds like a nice place. We cut over to the bar in question as Sonic arrives, but he's stopped at the door by a large ape bouncer. After being politely asked to leave, Sonic decides to make his own way in, bursting in through the doors with the body of the gorilla. At first, it looks like Knack is going to cooperate and turn himself in, but of course it's the old fake arms gambit. He gasses Sonic, knocking him out before deciding to try once again to get himself a good payment for Sonic's capture. He drives off on his hover bike, contacting Robotnik and demanding a $2 million exchange for Sonic's location, demanding to be paid via transfer after what happened last time. But while he's negotiating, Sonic appears out of the back and knocks out Knack before he can notice, even taking a moment to taunt Robotnik. Sonic then sends an overloaded hoverbike straight for Robotnik's hideout, giving him yet again another great big boom. Miles away, Rotor and Sally feel the tremor of the explosion, trying to look for Sonic's tracking signal to try and confirm if he was responsible for it, just as Sonic himself zooms back in, none the worse for wear. He tosses the tracker back to Rotor, apologizing for the state it's in, explaining that he had to remove the air filter to use as a gas mask, letting us know how he recovered from Knack's attack back at the bar. He tosses down a half-unconscious Knack who, while in a dazed state, basically confesses to all of the accusations that Sonic made against him. And as Knack is led back to his cell, Sonic and Sally share a nice little moment with one another where she apologizes for doubting him, and he apologizes for the way he talked to her. It's cute and a nice little resolution to the story, and we end on yet another image of Antoine being a jackass. This story is a pretty good cap on the narrative we've had over the last few issues and the special. I particularly love Sally's character in this issue, as it shows her having to battle her royal position and her love of Sonic, something that she got a free pass on for most of the comic's history, where she slowly started to edge into the always right territory. Sonic's also pretty damn good here as well, thinking fast on his feet and showing off his skill as a fighter, even if a majority of it takes place off-screen. The story itself is told quickly and simply, but I think it works well in this instance. The story is pretty well paced, giving us some good character moments, and doesn't bog us down with too much filler. Even the cameo appearance from Robotnik felt like it had a place in the story rather than just being a little cameo. But I will criticize Antoine here. The story is Gallagher again, so it is comedic up and down, but he manages to imbue several of the moments with the seriousness that they require. But Antoine here, he really bugs me. Look, I get that he's supposed to be a foil for Sonic, but he is a full-on douchebag antagonist in this story, and it does not reflect well on the small steps forward his character has taken since the beginning of the comic. And while he might still not like Sonic much, I've no doubt that he would have a healthy respect for Sonic as a comrade at arms. But here, he is gleeful over the idea of Sonic being court-martialed and banished. It's just something that doesn't sit well with me, nor does Bunny's over-confrontational nature when guarding Sonic. Duty or not, I just feel like she wouldn't be able to steel herself nearly as well as Sally did during something like this. Still, despite the inconsistent character writing, it's a solid story with another strong example of the series' growing continuity. Yet again, in terms of art, I don't find myself having much to say on it. It's just the rather well-done cartoonish style that is usually brought to us by Dave Manek, who actually does show off a rather good range here. While the characters are much more cartoonish this time around, the style does still show off enough of a serious side when it needs to that I can take it seriously, which is a hard balance to strike, that's for sure. Next time we move on to issue 41 to see what all this white space is about. I'll see you all next time, everyone.